The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Faster, my good afternoon. Well, what a lovely day it is on the Isle of Man. Blue sky, a blue sea out there. Make the most of it. And just remember, 5 weeks today, 5 short weeks today, pre-TT at the Lounge starts. Practice Friday, 24th of May, which means pre-TT, which means TT after that. So 5 short, everything's sorted, by the way. If you're doing homestay, have you bought the new bed linen yet? Have you hoovered the bedroom out? Text, email, call and WhatsApp, whatever's on your mind. Howard's first with us today. Hi, Howard.
Hello, Andy. It's nice to have a bit of good news. Well, apart from the weather, this is the rebuilding of the Villiers site with the hotel and of the other structure that's going to go up with the retail, etc. It's nice to have a little bit of good news to start the day. But I don't know how many people are aware of it, even within the building companies, etc., that were down there or going down there. But I remember, now, I've just asked Chris what the name of it is, but there's a cafe next to Pizza Hut where the shops were. There used to be 3 shops there at one time, and one of them was a gun shop, Sid Cowan.
Yeah.
And you went behind the counter, and down below the building was a very large cellar. And he used to have a rifle range down there, but it was built up. It was built about 2.5 feet above ground. It was on like a long platform. And the reason for that was that cellar would flood when the tide came in.
Right.
And I've seen anything up to over 2 feet of water in it.
So you're talking about Pizza Hut on the corner of Walpole Avenue?
That's the one, yeah.
And you're talking about going, that kind of, it used to be a parade of very thin hotels, didn't it, all the way through
it did. Yeah. Well, all that area, with it being reclaimed land, etc.
Yeah.
I know it was. I've actually seen it. I've seen over 2 feet of water, and some of the hotels there that are above what's a Pizza Hut used to come in from the back, round by the steam packet offices, and I can remember a company down there putting pumps in that operated in the reverse way that a toilet system would. When the toilet system empties, it fills automatically. This did the opposite. As the water came in, it would activate a switch and set the pumps going to keep the cellars clear. And that was happening the same in what was the Villiers area, because as I used to deliver oil down there for Manx Petroleums, and there's several times I've been down under the Villiers building, and it's been flooded. So it's just something that should be borne in mind, and probably has by the architects, but it's one of these things that can slip through the books. But that there is notorious for flooding. Now, whether it still is the same under those buildings, there's a little cafe, restaurant, bistro, whatever it is, just on the promenade side by the Pizza Hut. I think the chap has a buttery. I think he had it at one time.
Yeah.
But I can't remember, Bolero, whatever it is. But all that area was susceptible to flooding.
What was the name of the hotel? It's gone out of my head. Next to the Villiers on the corner of Regent Street.
I know my grandmother worked there. I was really trying to think of that yesterday.
What was the name of the hotel?
It was the Regent that was on the end of Regent Street, and there's another one on the other corner.
Yeah.
And my grandmother used to work in the bar there many, many years ago. I know the one. I can see it in my mind's eye, with a big entrance.
Well, at the moment, what they're saying is the planning committee meet on Monday, so they'll make a decision on next Monday, 22nd, but It's been recommended for approval. And this, that's been it has been a hole in the ground for 25 years?
Yep, it will be, all of that, because AXA, I think it was, they had that on the site, and the plans that were put forward and the building that appeared only vaguely resembled each other by having windows. The rest was just like a big glass house. But these ones, looking at the photographs that you have on your website, on the news, they look to be very acceptable. And TVAR, some of the jobs I've seen around, they've done first-class jobs on them.
It was the Athol Hotel.
Athol, that was the one. Thank you for that.
No, so don't thank me, thank Pete. He WhatsApped in to tell us.
Yes. Oh. Yeah, I remember that, the Athol Hotel. But, but that area is or was susceptible to flooding, and it's nothing that can't be overcome, but it's worth noting.
Okay, all right, I appreciate that, Howard. Thanks for calling.
Take care, bye now.
It's 12 minutes past 12. Well, Howard's pointed that out. I'd heard that before because the old AXA built, well, they built what was Royal Bank House, the headquarters for Royal Bank of Scotland, which is now Lloyds Bank, and I think Conister in there as well, and a few gambling companies. But there's a big underground car park there and I've heard anecdotal evidence that has flooded, but I don't know whether it actually has, whether that's a Manx myth. So if you've ever parked in that underground car park, either with Lloyds or with RBS, it'd be interesting to know, because, and also what are they going to do when they're bashing around on there? What's going to happen to that poor old car park underneath? I'm sure it's all sorted out. And if you go to manxradio.com, you'll see these two buildings. Thank you, Pete. Yes, it is the Athol Hotel. And also to WhatsApp at 865 Tavir Group. Tavir, it's Tevir, Tavir. They're called the Tavir Group because the people made their money in rivets. And rivet backwards is Tavir. It's true. So plans to develop the old Villiers site have been recommended for approval. It's been empty since the old hotel was felled in the 1980s. Two big buildings. They're the principal building, a mixture of retail and office, a gym, underground car park, and the second's going to be a 6-story hotel, 80-bed hotel. So that's a big, brand new hotel for Douglas Promenade. It's been recommended the proposals be approved because they're said to have a positive impact on the area and benefit the local economy. Well, of course it's a positive impact. There's a big hole there at the moment, a big grey hole. So it is better than what's there. Anyway, they're going to make their decision on Monday. You can find out more by going to manxradio.com. So we wish them well. And obviously, once that starts, it'll be no doubt all fans something to have a chat about when it's being built. Anyway, we wish them well. Thanks also to Ray. Dropped me a note very quickly, and he's introduced me to Kirch Vitters, which I didn't know. We were talking the other day about famous people who've been on the Isle of Man and lack of recognition. Loads of books written about people on the Isle of Man, but there's no street furniture to tell you. I mentioned the Joseph Montague Burton, the Monty Burton who started Burton's Tailors, has got a plaque on Victoria Street, literally at pavement level. And Joseph Pilates, the man who invented Pilates, he put the Pilates in Pilates, was interned at Knockalo, I think in Hutchinson Square as well. And at Hutchinson Square, I think it was nicknamed the Artist Camp or the University, because some very clever people were there, including Kirch Vitters, who I didn't know. I'd never heard of Kirch Vitters, but a fantastic. I've been obsessed with Kirch Vitters this morning, Ray. What an artist Kirch Vitters was. Died in Kendal, actually, but he was interned on the Isle of Man. And there must have been many well-known people who've lived on the Isle of Man. Of course, Archibald Knox for one. Read The Island of Barbed Wire by Connery Chapel. I've read that. Thank you, Ray. That's I'd recommend that to anybody, and you can pick it up for there must be half a dozen copies every Saturday in the auction for about 10p, or you can pay the proper price for it. Connery Chapel's Island of Barbed Wire. Very well worth reading. And thanks for that. Thanks also to Kenyon, who dropped me a note in, and this is a telephone scam that's going around the island at the moment. This could rob you £1, says Kenyon, within seconds. After hanging up on a call from a friend, I put the phone in my pocket and immediately heard a voice on the phone. Pulled the phone out and saw the ID National DQ with the number 118118. Well, if you remember those TV commercials with the two David Bedford lookalikes, 118118 was the directory inquiries thing. Kenyon said, I cancelled the call. It lasted just 12 seconds and I investigated. It was an outgoing call which I hadn't intentionally dialed. So how can you unintentionally dial 118? Can you accidentally dial that? The chance of that must be 1 in millions. I checked my contact list, and there at the very top was the name National DQ, a contact I had never entered, nor had I made a phone call to. Can only presume the company responsible calls you at some point and somehow gets their number onto your contacts list. The number goes to the top of your list. It only needs an accidental triggering to call the first number to the top of your contacts. Well, excuse me. So what you say, Kenyon and Andy? Clever? Well, Kenyon said, as I said, the call only lasted 12 seconds before I realised something was wrong. How much did the 12 seconds cost? £5 and 4p. Just think of what would have happened if I hadn't spotted it. I've removed the bogus contact from my list and barred 118. Not sure if there's anything more I can do. Sure Telecom, I hadn't heard of this before. So through Mannin Line, I'd just ask your listeners to be careful. Have a look through your phone contacts and see if DQ or National DQ has found its way into your contacts, because if it is, you want to get rid of it. If you do a web search for 118, it shows you a directory inquiry service that you might like to read about it before you're considering making a call with them. It does cost a fortune, 118. I think it's about £5 a time, or maybe more than that. I have read instances of that in the past, of people getting £12 bills for calling 118, but it is a UK directory inquiry service. But Kenyon got that somehow on his phone. Whether or not they've called him and how it's got him, we don't know, but it's just one of those questions. Whenever you hear somebody say stealing your data, that's the sort of thing that they mean. Thank you, Wolfie, who dropped a note in and just said, Andy, regarding the much publicised world tour, well, Manx tour of the Chief Minister and the Treasury Minister and Comyn, said to be for them to reconnect with people. I'd ask, says Wolfie, when did they connect in the first place, especially on some of the biggest decisions affecting the Isle of Man, such as purchasing the steam packet, the Liverpool landing stage, and the latest, Westmoreland Road, the Manx Development Corporation. Many people will go to these meetings to complain about issues affecting their lives, bus services and things like that. However, there are many big-ticket items that are going wrong. Yet the island is blessed with so many highly successful people who are specialists in their field, which we could actually benefit from their advice. But sadly, these people aren't recognised by politicians, civil servants, and therefore they're just never consulted when they could assist our politicians towards making better decisions for the future. Maybe a think tank of perhaps former senior civil servants, maybe even former politicians who could get together with our current politicians and steer a way forward. Wolfie, thank you for that. Andrew's on now. Hi, Andrew.
Hi there, Andy. Please, can I ask a question from you to start with? What is your understanding or definition of distraction politics?
Well, I've heard it mentioned. I think it's that you bring something up, so you want to kind of distract from something else that's going on in politics.
That's good. That's good for me. So I'm just looking on your website for the Rosalind Ranson row draws to a close. Okay, and the last two lines there say, Tynwald ultimately accepted the findings of the report. While the legal proceedings relating to the tribunal have now concluded, Tynwald will discuss the findings of the report again in July. So the legal proceedings are all now concluded. Okay?
Yep.
So now there can be no element of subjudice. Okay?
Yeah.
So, I'd like to call out now, please, Mr. David Ashford, because, David, you promised you would provide a line-by-line rebuttal. So, David, where is it? The electorate will not forget this, so if you can't provide a line-by-line rebuttal after you've promised it, if you're standing for re-election, how possibly can anybody believe what you're going to say? So, David, can you please come on now and provide the line-by-line rebuttal in Tynwald at the next sitting as a personal statement?
Okay.
That's it.
All right. I appreciate that. No, thanks for bringing that up. Thanks for that. Tynwald has debated the findings of the probe into the management. Tynwald's affected the findings of the independent investigation carried out into the government's management of the Dr. Rosalind Ranson case. Remember, this was a lengthy legal process which saw millions of pounds paid in compensation to the former medical director. Richard Wright, KC, delivered his report. Was it January or February? The start of this year anyway, which acknowledged at the time in Tynwald, but political members have only now had their chance to express their thought. It was a long road, really, which started from early 2020. And if you want to follow that, if you want to take a look at that, we've got a big article about it at manxradio.com. But thank you for that, Andrew. That's out there. It's Friday, which means we're looking into our 60th anniversary archive. We're 60 years old this year, 1964. I think we're the oldest radio station in the British Isles. I mean, with the same name. Other stations have changed name, but we're still Manx Radio as we were when we started in 1964. So, just before 1 o'clock, we're back into the archive. We're talking to, here's a name from the past, Graham Ferguson Lacey. An archive interview with Graham Ferguson Lacey about some of the well-known properties he acquired in the Isle of Man. Take a listen to that just before 1 o'clock today. It's on Manx Radio after Mannin Line today. Anyway, lots of messages in, which I'll get to, and thanks also for the WhatsApps. Did I miss the memo, says Steve? We were talking about whimsical ramblings of yesteryear. Yes. Yeah, that's that. Thank you, Steve. Good. So what are your whimsical meanderings of yesteryear, Steve? If government can't get involved with private companies in hospitality, then it shouldn't be giving developers upwards of £5 million towards their construction costs. Have they forgotten the £8.6 million gifted loan to the much-loved Sefton Group? Didn't they get that back? I know the government did lend the Sefton Group 10, 15 years ago, I think it was, but I'm sure that was repaid. I've just looked at my contacts on the phone, says 258. I've got that NDU contact. It had the number is now blocked. That's 118 118. Just check your phone contacts to see if that's on there. Because Kenyon had it, and if you've got it on it to make an accidental call, well, it cost him £5 and 4p for 12 seconds, so heaven knows what it will cost. Andy in Peel said, I've just found 118 118 on my phone as national DQ, and I've deleted it, but if it got there once, surely it could slip in again. You need to be vigilant. Thank you for that. Thank you, Andy in Peel. I'm curious to know how much of our taxpayers' money Veer Group wants for the latest development. I'm tired of giving my money to private companies. It's part of a big fund that they're using. They're giving money, I think, to, is it called Duluth Limited, which is part of Dandara, and also to Veer for their projects. Isle of Man farming is on its knees with food security an issue. So what does DEFA focus on? Says G. That's right, recruiting a new farm carbon engagement officer. Meanwhile, Scotland puts back its carbon targets. Is it true, says Anne, I don't know about this, so I'm going to pass this through to the news team. Is it true that sickness benefit claims are now being sent and processed in the UK along with the UK PIP systems and not the Manx DHSC? I didn't know that, Anne. I wonder where you've heard that from. Are sickness benefit claims on the Isle of Man being sent to and processed in the UK? One of your callers mentioned the 118 118 phone scam. I looked through my contacts to check, and as your caller advised, lo and behold, there it is. National DQ 118 118 is in my phone contacts. Now been deleted. Thanks for the information, says Dave in sunny Ramsey. And This is it. Well, I mentioned it before, and I'll mention it again because it bears repetition. When anybody talks about data being stolen, taken, mislaid, this is the sort of thing. If you've got 118 on your phone and you didn't put it on, somebody has nicked your data. Somebody has basically hacked into your phone and put their contact in. And 666 says there is also an international DQ, which is 118161. If you didn't put it in, I suggest you absolutely block it. And thanks to 258, thanks for reading out that NDU contact. I looked at my contacts in my phone and I got it too, and I have blocked it. So, big day yesterday, big day in Port St Mary. It's always a big day when democracy happens, whether it's the biggest democracy in the world or whether it's the democracy where you live. It's really, really important. The Port St Mary Commissioner's by-election was held yesterday. David Scott and Jean Tier were elected to the board. Mr. Scott won with 251 votes, and Mrs. Tier got 224 votes. James Helps came third with 152. 382 ballot papers counted. No postal votes, no sport ballots, a turnout of 25%. It was filthy weather yesterday, and I think Ramsey was about 18% turnout a few weeks ago, so 25% is, that'll do, that's okay. So our local democracy reporter Emma Draper was, of course, there live last night with the Manx Radio microphone.
So we've had a fantastic turnout of 25% in Port St Mary this evening. That's 382 votes which were cast. There was no spoilt votes, no tendered votes. I hereby give notice that the candidates elected at the election for Port St Mary are David Vaughan Scott and Jean Marion Tier. The votes are as follows: James Edward Helps, 152 votes; David Vaughan Scott, 251 votes; Jean Marion Tier, 224 votes.
I've always wanted to be involved with the local politics to help my community, and I'm pleased now to have the chance to do that.
And how are you feeling now you've just been elected?
It's good. I think we leafleted the whole village, and I'd like to thank the helpers that helped us do that, because we did it over 4 days. As I said before, I think it's interesting how people respond when they have the chance to go for an election, and I think a lot of the issues that I had in my manifesto are things that people raised when we met them. I'm hoping we can start to do something about that now. Well, I think it's sensible to sit and listen for a few meetings and get the hang of what other people think and feel, and then I'll start to try and introduce some of the things that we've talked about. Particularly I want to see the pavilion operating and functioning as it used to.
Looking forward to it. We get our papers tomorrow, so we'll learn what's on the agenda. But yes, it should be a fruitful year. Obviously it is only a 12-month tenure, so it's all a learning process. I'd like to thank everybody who came out to support in this terrible, terrible weather today, because it's been so wet. They've been absolute stalwarts, really, and the other candidates, because we all had a good team outside, or sort of laughing and joking all day, which has been amazing. Great experience, and I'd encourage people to stand.
And what are you looking forward to initially?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think learning where everybody is at the moment in terms of agenda, and let's not assume that I know any more than what they do. So I think it'll be slowly, really.
And there they were. Congratulations to the successful candidates yesterday. That's David Scott and Jean Tier in Port St Mary.
ShopRite Savers, available now from our stores in Peel, Ramsey and Onchan. Stock up on laundry. Comfort Ultimate Care 58 wash for $2.50. Persil Laundry Liquid 53 wash just £4.72. A time-saving snack. 90-gram pot noodle only 70p. Coffee break. Kenko Millicano 100 gram just £4. Pasta sauce. Jars of 500-gram Dolmio Bolognese only $1.50. All these savers and more available at ShopRite.
Hey June, I wanted to tell you about the Green Living Grant. Well, new Spectrum windows and doors are so energy efficient they qualify for the Green Living Grant, with funding available for up to 50% of the cost. I saved £5,725. But the application deadline closes at the end of June.
Don't delay. Contact Spectrum Windows today on 817777. T's and C's apply.
Mike has got the Conister feeling. Because despite his busy life, getting the finance to sort some home improvements was quicker and easier than he ever dreamt with Conister Bank.
You got me feeling good, got me feeling good, got me feeling good, got me feeling good, yeah!
Ooh, and not even Conister can help improve his singing. Apply online today at conisterbank.co.in and you'll get the Conister feeling too. All loans are subject to status. Terms and conditions apply. Early settlement fees apply.
FC Isle of Man face their third of 3 games in 5 days this weekend in another hectic week for the Ravens in the NWCFL Premier Division. The Manx side welcome AFC Liverpool to the Bowl this Saturday in their penultimate home game of the season as the Ireland outfit continue their push for a top 10 finish. Join me, Rob Pritchard, for FC Isle of Man versus AFC Liverpool, kicking off at 6 p.m. this Saturday. Manx Radio will be providing full live match commentary on our DAB and AM 1368 channels. Live coverage of FC Isle of Man on Manx Radio is supported by Selton, investing in our community.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
28 minutes now before 1. Remember, a couple of political surgeries this weekend, and on Saturday, tomorrow, Rob Callister will be at Onchan Community Hall from 10 to 11:30 if you want to meet one of the Onchan MHKs. 10 to 11:30. Just drop in, have a chat with Rob if there's something particular on your mind. And also from 11:30 till 1, it's Douglas North MHKs. David Ashford and John Wallenberg will be there with, I think, a couple of Douglas councillors at the main assembly hall at Williston School from 11:30 till 1 if you want to see politicians. Juan's on now. Hi, Juan.
How are you, Andy? Are you getting ready for Passover?
I think so. I think I'm just about ready.
Yeah. I was just in the community yesterday, funnily enough, and they just rented out a house, a large house actually, to a group of Orthodox Jews, and they paid $150,000 for 2 weeks rental on a house. So some people are not short of money.
That's a lot of donuts, isn't it?
It's a lot of donuts, yeah, and a 7.5-ton wagon of food outside to bring in because it's all going to be religious and blessed and all that. So how the other half live, eh? How the other half live. But you stick with your bacon sandwich, we'll be all right. We were talking just around a point there. We were talking the other day about Barclays Bank. I think someone mentioned about the 20,000 limit.
Yes, in England.
Barclays Bank. Yeah, and I believe that's coming in on the 1st of July. They're trying to push that in. Now, I noticed as well that NatWest are trying to put a £26,000 limit on their banking for, I think it's private. I don't think it's for business banking. I think it's...
Oh, we've disappeared. Juan, get back to us if you can. We'd like to find out more about that. And thanks also to... again, I'm curious to know about this money, taxpayers' money that's going to Tavere. Well, it's called the Island Infrastructure Scheme. Department for Enterprise has confirmed that there are 3 proposals that were approved in principle. That the public money that's going to the private developers is the Island Infrastructure Scheme. 3 key brownfield sites across the island. There's a private sector investment of $50 million. The scheme was launched in 2023, providing up to 25% funding in support of registered, unoccupied urban sites that have been empty for many years. 2 of the applications, supported in principle, are providing residential accommodation in line with the island plan, with 1,000 additional occupied homes by the end of 2026. So there's the proposed 55 apartment development on Lake Road in Douglas, which is Duluth Limited, Dandara. 38 apartments developed on the site of the former Ocean Castle Hotel by Tavere. And the third scheme is the one that's recommended for approval, which is the Villiers site, a major development on the former Villiers site on Loch Promenade with a mixed-use development. So that's Tavere again. So Tavere is the old Ocean Castle in Port Erin, and the Tavere, and Duluth is the Dandara site, the old Douglas Corporation properties down on Lake Road, really just used at the moment as a kind of car park. But that's what it is. It's the Island Infrastructure Scheme that's supporting there. So private development, private money is putting in a portion, and the government is throwing in some public money as well. In addition to this, of course, lurking in the background, we've got our friends at the Manx Development Corporation. The provision of support in principle is a key element of this approach, says Treasury, working alongside Manx Development Corporation, publicly owned and progressing with its own plans for government-owned brownfield site. There is the former nurses' home in Douglas, which at the moment is just had some more money put to it, and Manx Development Corporation has undertaken investigations, surveys and feasibility studies for the Parade Street car park in Lower Douglas. So they're hoping to do something there following the investigations and approval from the steering group. They're in the early stages of a design process to create a multi-use development on that site. So that's the Parade Street car park for the Manx Development Corporation. But those three big ones, the Villiers site, the Villiers and the Athol site, the Ocean Castle in Port Erin, and Lake Road in Douglas. Nothing has been said about the bus station. The bus station in Douglas, which sits there quite merrily as a free car park at the moment, doing precisely nothing. In addition, just up the road, 100 yards up the way, the planning permission failed for nuisance, so nothing happening there. The other side of the quay in South Quay, you just simply sit at those lovely cafes on North Quay and look across and look at the redundant, gaunt shell of what used to be the Trafalgar, and look at the big holes in the landscape there. Some nice commercial buildings, very nice. Plumbers, the plumbers' supplies, and where the gas board used to be. But elsewhere, it looks a bit grim. Apologies for any confusion. Oh, sorry, Rob Callister said, my political surgery was last weekend. The next one, Saturday the 11th of May. Thank you, Rob. We'll get that in. So no Rob Callister tomorrow. It's Saturday the 11th of May. As a Sefton shareholder, yes, the government loan was fully repaid and with interest that financially benefited the Isle of Man people, says Andy 667. Since who is it? GFL, Graham Ferguson Lacey, got his way to control. He leveraged the profitable and valuable business assets such that repaying interest and loans nearly caused the company to collapse. It's only the good management of Mr. Brett Martin, he's a fine manager, Brett, and the people since GFL that the business survives, albeit as a private company, so shareholders can't sell out, and Mr. Monks is the largest shareholder in providing private finance. So well done to Brett Martin and David Monks, I think it is, who's the largest shareholder in there. Yes, the Sefton has got a checkered history, shall we say. We were talking also, and again, this is a subject which comes up time and time again, periodically but frequently and regularly, and this is dog mess. We were chatting yesterday, or somebody reported that it was on some playing fields in the south, and also there's been an outbreak, if you like, on Peel Promenade. I visit my mum daily, says 696, in a nursing home in Douglas, and very often there's dog mess by the entrance. The elderly residents often don't see it. Some haven't got full sight and they just don't see it. They get it on their walkers or their walking sticks and bring it back into the building. It's not nice. And really, why should people still be doing this? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know what you would say to anybody who allows their dog to foul without cleaning it up. It was great to hear Dorothy Quirk on Mannin Line. Oh, that's what the guy was talking about. Yes, we're dipping into the past because we're 60 years old. We had Dorothy Quirk on yesterday. Let's hear Freddie Bell on Mannin Line the day he phoned up to admit he was the person who had to be rescued on the mountain by snowfall. Thank you, James. We'll try and find it out. We've got 60 years of archives on Manx Radio. Unfortunately, the bad news is poor old James, who's in the archive, archive is confronted with an absolute mountain of reel-to-reel tapes, cassettes, mini discs, metal tapes, records, everything is in there, and we're gradually working our way through. Now, the big plan in the future is that the Manx Radio Archive will actually be available digitally, and you'll be able to call it. You'll be able to just call on what you want and it will come out of your smart speaker or your phone. That's a while away. At the moment, we're just working our way through 60 years of history. It sounds very easy if you say it quickly, but getting through 60 years of output and archiving all and you hear portions of what we've been running on Mondays and Fridays, looking back at the enormous range of people that we've chatted to over the years. And at the time, they were just chatted to and filed. Now we're trying to work our way through it. But anyway, Graham Ferguson Lacey will be on after Mannin Line today. And Juan's back. You found your 10p for the phone, did you?
Plus VAT. 10p plus VAT. It's terrible these days. They're the joys of modern technology. I thought Alfred cut me off for a minute, but there you go. I was saying, I think, where did we leave off, Andy? Was it 26,000, I think, NatWest are putting their limit down to, I believe.
Yeah, cash deposit, yeah.
Cash deposits, yeah. So I think it seems to be an interesting move. And although the conspiratorial side will say that they're trying to force the use of cash out with the ordinary person, and it seems to be that way because it'll get blamed on crime and all that business, but it seems to be a defined agenda to do that.
But why would they say? Why would they want to? I mean, I understand in terms of the banks because it costs a lot of money to process cash and it has to be counted and it has to be reconciled. So the banks don't want it. I mean, that's obvious. And the banks really don't want private accounts. They only want corporate money because there's more money in it. So, but why would governments want to get rid of cash, I wonder?
It seems to be control and compliance, and you look at what's going on around the world, and there seems to be an agenda for tokenization, and you see this word starting to creep in different places now. I think you go to like Screwfix, it's enter your token. So they're trying to get this here way of thinking in with people of tokenization, and there seems to be a thought in mind that once everything is digitalized and tokenized, it can then be turned on and off, or it can be governed more. So going in terms of green agendas, carbon credits, and all the other stuff that they're trying to bring in, it seems to roll out that maybe they can control more spending of people with that. So I don't know. It's interesting. That goes along with the use more cash that people have been going on about for quite some time, and a lot of people are using cash.
But
so
the thing is now with things like cryptocurrency, I mean, I don't move in those circles, but I am told by people who understand it that criminals can move millions across the world by buying and selling cryptocurrency. So you're never going to stop crime by getting rid of cash.
No, you're not. Exactly that. But you will be able to control people. So I think that's the main thing here is maybe the control issue from governments and maybe the hierarchy above governments, because, I mean, they seem to be just drawn by strings at the moment as well. So I don't know. But on the All Things Manx, has anyone gone to the call to action yesterday, Andy, the meeting that was at the Cregna Bar?
We haven't heard anything. This was the hospitality get-together at the Craig, wasn't it?
Yes, I believe so. And looking at some of the threads on some of the sites, it wasn't just for hospitality. Other people were invited there as well. And just looking at some of the comments, and someone put on yesterday on a comment, it isn't just hospitality on the island that's barely floating above water. It feels sometimes as though the government want to see small places closed down. Such a strange feeling. So that's the kind of feedback that seems to be going around the island. So it would be interesting if someone was at the meeting yesterday, or I'd love to have gone if I was home, to see what the feedback was from the people there, and is there a pathway forward?
I mean, do you think there's anything that could be done? I mean, VAT, surely changing VAT is not going to change. I mean, if this is basically to put the prices down for the public, I could understand it. But VAT is kind of cost neutral for most retailers, isn't it?
I think in the short term, I think it kick-started things after COVID, didn't it? I think they brought VAT down for the industry a little bit. So maybe it would kick-start it, but it's the AA's answer for getting your car back on the road, isn't it? It gets it back on, but it doesn't actually fix the problem. So I don't know. Maybe we're back to getting more people here, and getting the boat prices down, getting more people actually on the island, getting the spend per capita up, and actually just flooding the people. Get some, we've got Villa Marina, we've got the Gaiety there, we've got 2 fantastic halls. Get some big shows on there, sell the tickets over to the UK as well, and start circulating. I mean, surely the answer to business is circulation and getting more heads back in the restaurants, the cafes, the bars, and the shops.
Okay.
I don't know. Just interested to see if there was any feedback from last night from anyone.
We'll try and find out. Okay. Thanks, Stuart.
Take care, Andy.
Good to hear from you. And Bill's on now. Hi, Bill.
Hello there. I'm always concerned. I never hear any plans for the Lord Street flats that used to be owned by the Douglas Corporation or Douglas City Council. What's the story there?
Well, Bill, I mean, a couple of weeks ago, we had the two Douglas MHKs from Douglas Central, and they didn't seem to know what was happening. So, I mean, that's a really big site on both sides of the road.
Well, I'm only thinking of the side, the south side, the north side of the road.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking of the other side at the moment, because that's the one that's unoccupied. They're all locked up with temporary, no one's to get in. Stop squatters getting in, etc.
So what do you think? I mean, have you got any ideas to what you think should happen there?
Well, refurbishment. Take the chimneys down, put a new roof on, and then gut each flat, in turn. It wouldn't be cheap, but at least it would get the thing occupied. It's been lying empty for over 2 years now, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse.
Well, we've asked in the past, we've asked Douglas City Council as they are now, but we haven't heard any response. But as you say, it's going on a bit.
That's ridiculous. I live in Peel Road and I pass it every day, and it nearly brings me to tears seeing all these empty properties just sitting there going downhill.
Okay, all right.
If nothing gets done.
We'll continue to ask the questions. Bill, thanks for bringing that up. The Lord Street flats at the moment, empty and boarded up. Big site as well, and hefty buildings. John, Big John this is, angry, hungry. He's hangry, as Big John. I've reached the point, as many people, that chip shops are now serving a very small portion of chips. I went to Port Erin, paid £6.50 for chips, meat, potato, pie. 22 chips. You counted the chips, John, 22 chips. How many chips do you get now for a small portion? It's expensive, but then again, they'll tell you potatoes are expensive, and certainly fish. I don't know about meat and potato pie. But thank you, Big John. We could find the most expensive fish and chips on the Isle of Man. If we went to a cashless society, says WhatsApp 744, what would happen to the shops and people if the card and contactless system went down? This is always the worry, isn't it? What happens if it fails? It happened to me the other week, and the shops would only accept cash. We need to have an option to pay for things, says WhatsApp 744.
Spring, a time for new beginnings and nature. This season, why not have a fresh start by switching your savings to Guernsey's Bank Skipton International and watch them grow? Skipton International offers a range of savings accounts, from fixed term to notice and easy access, enabling your savings to bloom for longer. So make this spring one to remember by switching to Skipton International today.
For details of all Skipton International savings products, call 01481 730 730 or visit skiptoninternational.com. Skipton International is licensed to take deposits by the GFSC and is a participant in the Guernsey Banking Deposit Compensation Scheme. See dcs.gg.
Are you a reluctant landlord, tired of tenant hassles, cursed by constant maintenance, tormented by empty properties producing no rent? Want to escape these worries or get out altogether?
At Prime Lettings, we understand your pain and have bespoke solutions to release you from these problems. Ring us on 616 707 for a free confidential chat.
Prime Lettings. We're on call and on the ball at 616 707.
When you need a fitting memorial or headstone for a loved one, contact Manx Memorials in Peel. This long-standing family-run Manx company offer a wide range of granite and marble headstones and memorials, along with an island-wide inscription and renovation service. Manx Memorials skilled professionals will take the time to help you choose a suitable memorial, and we're proud to say we'll beat other local quotes. Call 843-861 or email matthew@manxmemorials.co.uk.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mai, good afternoon. Thanks for calls and comments today on Mannin Line. Remember, out of hours, you can email manninline@manxradio.com or call the answer phone on 682-631. Mike on 023. Yesterday, I was parked near the meat plant when a big yellow skip truck from a well-known company went into the meat plant and came out a while later. Was it carrying spoiled meat? Did you smell anything, Mike? Was there anything there? Thanks also to the person who's asking about, just say, I'll definitely be going to, in fact, I think I'm going to go to all 4 of these listening to you events next week. You really need to get out more. Oh, you are getting out more as well. Oh, another famous person who arrived here in the Second World War was Walter Landauer, one half of Ravitz and Landauer. I sold him a car in the 1960s in London. He was a really nice person, Walter Landauer. We'll all be chipped in the future, says Des. The government wants control of us over Bitcoin as well. The government wants cash out so every transaction can be recorded so they can ensure less tax slippage, says Andy. Yeah, my point's about cryptocurrency, though. Who regulates cryptocurrency? If criminal A in Paraguay wants to get money to criminal B in wherever, let's say Eastbourne or Solihull or wherever, then cryptocurrency offers camouflage, shall we say. So how are we going to get round that? So anyway, just a quick point then. The listening to you next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Monday, Castle Rushen High School. Tuesday, QE2. They'd love to see you on Wednesday at Ballacameen High School and on Thursday at Ramsey Grammar School. Doors open at 5:30 for everyone, and they kick off at 6 through till 8. There's going to be question and answer sessions, and you can ask and talk to the Council of Ministers. And got a message in yesterday from somebody saying, don't be frightened to go. Don't be intimidated. I don't think anybody will be intimidated. That's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. Big match tomorrow night. Remember, Manx Radio is going to be live at the Bowl. Rob Pritchard, Tony Mepham commentating as the Ravens take on AFC Liverpool. Penultimate match of the season. They've been playing just about every other day. They must be worn out. In the meantime, it's going to be a great weekend. The weather looks good. Thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones today. Chris P is on the way. Enjoy your weekend.
WINT. 60 years serving you as the nation station. This is Manx Radio.
In past years, a businessman who made a great impact on Manx life was Graham Ferguson Lacey. He bought several large commercial properties, but it was when he took an interest in the historic household names on the island that he really gained attention, as he admitted to David Collister.
Inevitably, the ones that people became aware of because of their profile were Rushen Abbey for the reasons we've discussed, and the nunnery. People forget that the nunnery had been on the open market for 4.5 years before, in fact, I acquired it, and indeed it was with the encouragement of a distinguished politician here that I look at it, because there was a real concern that it would be properly protected and preserved and secured for a use that people could be comfortable with, that was commensurate with its importance and history.
You had this extraordinary ability, though, to buy properties which government rather, I think, would like to have had, to sell them back to the government virtually at pretty good prices.
Well, no, with respect, that's not correct, David. I didn't buy Bishop's Court from the government. I bought it from a private individual.
But they had, in previous years, a long time back, had owned it, of course.
Yes, and I haven't sold that back to the government. That's been bought by a private individual. As far as Russian Abbey is concerned, I never had any intent whatsoever of selling it to the government. What I did cost me real money financially, but I was pleased to make a contribution and to put something back because of other benefits I've enjoyed on the island. So to date I've sold only one property to the government, but you're absolutely right. Historically the nunnery was owned by the government, and
you might be selling it back to them?
I doubt that. I'm aware that the government had heated debates and discussions, I think it was back in 1976, David, about whether they should keep it or not. And I know there were other opportunities in the past for Russian Abbey, and for various reasons that didn't happen, as indeed was the case with Bishop's Court. But I think also, to be fair to the politicians, it's easy for us, having lived through a near unbroken decade of phenomenal growth here in the Isle of Man economically, that prior to that, the government didn't have the resources and the reserves to hold on to a nunnery or to buy from the church a Bishop's Court, or indeed to do what's now being done at Russian Abbey. And so there is a sense in which part of the good fortunes of the economic miracle of the island this last decade have made that possible.
Part of island life for 60 years. This is your Manx Radio.